Hello everyone, I'm Cadarev. You can't see me right now, but you will see me in a few seconds. There I am. I will be running Tomb Raider 2013, even though it just says Tomb Raider, so this is the first one of the most recent reboot trilogy. I will start straight away, since we don't have too much time on our hands. I will play on normal, and I will start in 3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, this is, as I already said, the first of the reboot Tomb Raiders, so you will see quite a few new things if you're used to the old ones, and if you're used to the new ones, then good on you. So, story-wise, Lara, like, this is kind of her origin game of this new timeline, so to say. And she was supposed to go on an expedition somewhere, but she doesn't reach that somewhere the way she wants to. So she gets shipwrecked, and that's not very good. And she ends up kind of captured in this not very hospitable cave. As you will see, she's quite in a predicament. And we will first have to get free again. So we're kind of tied up and hanging from the ceiling. And luckily there is a source of fire, as you can already see, and the only logical conclusion we can come to is that the best way to get down again is to set ourselves on fire, which makes a whole lot of sense. So this is kind of just Lara swinging to the right and left, at least that's what you're gonna see. I take it as a sign of appreciation. Yeah, so I will kind of go through always like the same motion here, and so we should always get set on fire in the same kind of time. Once I fall down and get out of the predicament I will find myself in there, I will, once I get the first checkpoint, immediately quit out to the main menu and reload that checkpoint. And what I want to do is, during the loading screen, I want to input jumps. And if I hit the correct timing, Lara should kind of jump in a forward motion and go out of bounds. The issue is I am supposed to have restricted movement, which obviously would not allow you to do that. So there is a very small window of opportunity there. But I will try my best. So since it's obviously not the PC I'm used to, I'm not sure what the loading times will be, so we'll see about that. Yeah, not too bad. But yeah, so this is what shouldn't happen. Let's see if I can make the thing happen that should happen. Nope, not yet. Okay, so it's one loading. So I basically count the circles in the bottom right corner there. I think it's like one more than what I'm used to. That's better. So now I'm out of bounds, but like Lara's still very wobbly, and she doesn't have too many movement options. And my main goal here is to stay out of bounds. So I don't want to obviously clip to the right side, where I would be back in bounds. I don't want to fall into the void, which obviously would make me have to load a checkpoint, and the only checkpoint I have is the one that I just got, and that's back in bounds, which I obviously want to avoid as well. So at certain points I can jump, at some I can't. I really want to get on top of this ledge here. Once you don't get it on the first try, it's kind of weird to get it again, but okay, eventually you can make it. There are basically just a few moments here where things can really go wrong, but if they go wrong, you... like, basically, this entire skip here is for nothing. So this is one of these moments. You kind of want to slowly nudge... and this is already, yeah, screwed. So, okay. Guess we'll just go back in bounds. I don't want to waste too much time here going for it again and again, so we'll just do the normal way. The idea is basically to stay out of bounds and skip the very... I was supposed to get that torch, I know that much. Skip the very last room in the game. In the tutorial. That's like the only real time save this skip would give you. But yeah, as you saw, it's very finicky. Like that's kind of one of the parts there where Lara is on a very steep slope, and since she doesn't really have a jump, you kind of have to wiggle around a bit the camera and stuff like that. So didn't quite work out, but oh well. So this is kind of just a tutorial area now, where we learn how to set things on fire, and then things explode because they get set on fire. Eventually. Very eventually. Whoops. And then we try to get out of here, and we get some company. I actually haven't done this in a while. What is it? Okay, it's yeah. Obviously, usually I don't do this QT, so I'm not sure what the inputs are, but all good. And then we just make our way through this tunnel, and then we go into the room we were supposed to skip. But I hope I remember what to do. So now you get to see what we should have skipped. And that will just be another, well, calling it a puzzle is probably a bit an exaggeration, but it's the closest we basically get to solving a puzzle in this run, hopefully. And once again we will lose the fire because we have to go through this waterfall, and we'll go through this one, and then we can light our torch again over here. And burn these things so the elevator goes down. And then the idea is that like there is some debris going onto this thing that we can also set on fire. And then we activate the elevator, just waiting for some more debris to go onto it, just to be sure, because sometimes the debris falls off without going into the box to the right, but that's good. And then we just push it, and we're out of here. And yeah, this is the big room we were supposed to skip. As you can see, it takes quite a while, because Laura's not very fast right now. And off we go. Eventually, once Laura's not in water anymore. So this is the second very small out of bounds I'll try to do. That basically just skips one QTE of like 7 seconds or something, so it's not very significant, but maybe at least I can get that one. It's not too difficult to get usually. So if I grab this thing on the very right, you can see now I'm out of bounds. And there is a QTE to my left that I just skipped, but the camera is a bit weird now. It's just not supposed to be that far down in the ground, but it will correct itself once I jump across this gap. This is like the final part of the intro. Just gonna mash or alternate between left and right. Dodge these rocks. Then we're good to go. And that would be Scavenger Den, which is this tutorial area done. There are a few more smaller tutorials right after this, but it's like pretty short, because soon we will get our first weapon, and that will enable us to do our first real skips. Yeah, so one thing regarding movement, that now that we basically regained our entire liberty of what we can use, is usually you will see me scramble jumping. So scrambling is kind of where Lara will, I don't know, shimmer or shift around the ground, and out of that you can jump. So that's usually the preferred way of movement because it's the fastest. In some area, like in windy areas or when Lara is hurt again, she will not be really able to scramble. So then I will just roll. It's almost as fast. So right now she can't scramble, but now she can, and this is basically what scramble jumping looks like. So this is what you will have to get used to. This is like, it looks kind of like a tutorial on how to cross these, I don't know, tree trunks areas, but there is actually no way to fail this. Like, we tried our hardest. You cannot jump off this thing. It's literally just 15 seconds of holding W or forward, whatever you would prefer. Another pretty common theme is checkpoint reloads. So there I got a checkpoint. In the bottom right there is kind of a small TR symbol that indicates that you got a checkpoint. And out of that you can checkpoint reload, which in this case prevented or skipped the animation of Lara like slowly getting off the tree and looking around and taking in the scenery. So that's one thing that we will also see quite a few times. But now we just have to make our way across this valley here, which conveniently a plane crashed here that we can climb around on. And now we should drop down. And so this is a windy area, so this is why we'll roll here instead of scramble jumping. And then we'll jump right into the next cutscene. So Lara's main goal right now is to find other survivors of her expedition. Obviously so far she's not been too lucky with that. But eventually things should improve. If you actually drop down on the left side here, you will die. Don't know what happened there, but it's a thing. Also not a checkpoint reload, because yeah, if you don't checkpoint reload, obviously Lara tumbles all the way down and slowly gets up. Again, she's hurt right now, so she can't scramble, which is why I'm just jumping. And now we reach our first campfire. Campfires are kind of the main, I don't know, nodes where you can level up, not level up, like buy skills and eventually fast travel. Obviously we can't do either of those, we don't have skill points and we don't have any other campfires unlocked, but they're like kind of your main checkpoints. And now we need to get some food, and while there is some game here, we also need a bow, and conveniently there is a bow right up there that we will now retrieve. And like, while it is somewhat useful for combat, we will mainly use it for more convenient things. Give me that. So first we have to shoot the deer at the bottom of the slope. Oh, this mouse sensitivity is very low. That hopefully will not be an issue later on. We will like get the food here, but now you're supposed to go back to the campfire for another story cutscene. We will not do that. We will use our bow now to clip through this gate, or this door. If Lara wouldn't grab the ledge, but just there we go. Oh yeah, oh my god, this is slow sensitivity. Yeah, so what I did there is, like by jumping against the door, you can already halfway clip into it. And then if you do the kind of melee animation in this game, it's kind of a shove. Lara can, I don't know, like, if you turn the camera basically during that animation, you will clip through the gate entirely. And that's obviously very useful. In this case, we already skipped having to go back to the campfire and then go back to the bunker again. But it will be much more useful later on as well. It's one of the main tricks that will be used. We got the prying axe here. We will eventually upgrade it to a more useful tool, but it's kind of required to finish the run. And at the top of this ladder, you're supposed to just go outside the bunker and meet the main antagonist of the game. We will not do that, hopefully. We will clip on top of the bunker, but you will see that the camera is kind of halfway stuck in between down here. Oops, that's not the right... Yeah, there we go. That looks better. So now if I turn the camera, I have to jump off this ledge here, because as you can see the camera is stuck underneath the ceiling. And by jumping off that ledge, I kind of fuse it back into Lara's body, so now I can move around freely. If I would have jumped while the camera was in that weird state, I would have just dropped straight through the ceiling again, and obviously it would have undone all of that skip. So now that allows me to not just bypass the cutscene, but also already go into a more direct path to the next checkpoint. On my way there, I will collect a total of 50 salvage, which is kind of the upgrade material in this game. In this game, this is basically the only upgrade material you have. They expanded on this much more with the two following games, Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. In this game, it's just salvage. And yeah, the 50 salvage we need, because once we get this checkpoint here, I will first reload the checkpoint. Because right now I'm still considered to be in combat, and that prevents me from sitting down at a campfire. Now I'm out of combat, I can sit down at a campfire and I can upgrade my axe. Now it basically allows me to pry open this gate, but we will just not do that, because there's actually a better way get past it, hopefully. Oh god, I forgot this mouse sensitivity is low. Yeah, so we can again kind of clip halfway up that wall behind us, and from there just jump onto the roof on the side, which bypasses having to slowly open the gate. And also you would walk behind Whitman, which was the guy you briefly saw there at the campfire, which is still considerably slower than the slow walking Shorty does here. And now we get captured again, this time by Russian guys on a Japanese island. I'm sure it makes sense somehow. But yeah, obviously we lose our weapons, and also we're kind of tied up, literally. So right now, just rolling will be the fastest option, but it's a loud action, or it's supposed to be. As you saw, that guy right there didn't really pay too much attention to us. So you kind of have to know where you can roll, but you shouldn't just roll past enemies when they're right next to you. They will usually catch you. Which is also why I have to wait out this guy. But then once we're past him, we can basically make our way to the next cutscene / QTE. Which is right in that shed there, because that's where Lara thinks it's the best spot to hide. Which will just lead to her immediately being captured. So not very lucky on that end. However, this is the QTE that will give us the gun, or the pistol, as it's called. Which is pretty much like our preferred way of obviously doing accurate shots. Like we will get 2 more weapons later on that are more used for like direct combat, but for like precise shots, this is like the go-to weapon. So this is like always the same inputs here, so I already know what to do. So we will wrestle the guy a bit on the ground, but eventually we will defeat him and get to keep this pistol here. You can shoot him here, you can also just not do that, there is really no difference. So I opt to not shoot him, but eventually I will shoot him anyways. Whoops. Alright, so now with the pistol we can make our way down this bridge. However, there will still be a tutorial fight for this pistol. Every weapon kind of has a tutorial fight right after you get it. This one is very notorious because the aim is just like super drunk, unless you headshot these guys in the first second, and with this mouse sensitivity I'm not very confident in that. Okay, never mind, we got it anyways. But you saw that guy also dropped the flashlight, and that also can block your shots, so that's not very fun. Here I'll try to skip having to go through the house behind me. I swapped weapons there, which allows me to scale this small rock here, but you may have seen me like there was a weird walking animation. Basically the game tries to pull you back down to the ground, which is bad because it would slide us off the mountain, but also out of the rock. But it's also bad because right underneath where we were was already a death plane, so we would have died if we would have allowed the game to pull us back inside. So that's why I had to constantly move back during that. Oops. Okay, that was 2 more shots than I wanted to use. Never mind, 3 shots. Can one of these guys please give me pistol ammo? I guess not. Okay, and now I have plenty of arrows, but no pistol ammo. That's unlucky. But there is another like pickup I can get in like a few minutes. Yeah. So right now you can tell Lara's on the radio with one of her friends. So she's talking to Roth. He is or was, I guess, the captain of the expedition. And he's kind of like her mentor / father figure in this game. So yeah, that's him. We will make our way up this staircase. Interestingly, if you kill these guys with the pistol, they will not alert any enemies, but if you kill them with the bow, they will. That makes sense, I guess. And there we skipped having to go via that bridge you saw there on the left, which would have alerted some more enemies. It's a very basic jump, but basically by scramble jumping I was able to get a few fractions of a second in mid-air to extend the range of that jump. So that's why you can make it that way. The game can actually crash here. Even in casual play the game can crash. So let's see what happens. Okay, it didn't crash. Lucky us, I guess. Yeah, like in casual playing, glitches those runs, in glitch runs, the game is prone to crashing here. I'm actually kind of happy because I see tech station is not occupied right now, so I don't even know if it had crashed, if someone would have had to rearrange things or not, but luckily we don't have to worry about that. Alright, so now that we got out of that jam, we will meet Roth. He's right here. And then we will leave Roth, because we don't really need him. Again, another checkpoint reset here. And now we will make our way to the Wolf's Cave. So story-wise, Roth is severely injured and he lost the whatever it was, radio something. And we need to retrieve it from the wolves. We will go to the wolves, but not really meet them. Because before going into the Wolf's Cave, we will do what is called a skywalk, which is basically certain slopes. If you tap backwards while sliding down them, you will kind of stall in midair, and then you can, by doing precise inputs, directional-wise and with your camera, you can slide along level boundaries. So something like this. But it is rather finicky, especially with low mouse sensitivity. I want to get up here, that's better. Okay, so that was like the easy part of this glitch. This is the difficult one. Okay, that looks good. Okay, yeah, we got the checkpoint there, so we're all safe now. Yeah, so that is the Wolf's Cave skip using skywalks. And what that basically skips is getting the radio, going back down, upgrading our climbing axis so we could climb all the way back up there. Which is a feature we definitely need to use later on, but luckily this game has quite a few fail-safes, so to say. So if you don't have certain required equipment when you cross certain sections of levels, the game will just give them to you to make sure you can complete the game. Now there are still ways to softlock yourself out of progress, but we kind of make sure to, yeah, obviously not trigger those kind of soft locks. We will now very successfully stealth past all of these enemies, as you can tell. Extremely stealthy. This guy can be very annoying because, as you can see, you can kind of block the passageway there. And also some of these guys, like especially the Molotov cocktails, can be very damaging. Yeah, that thing. And also, whenever you get hit while on a zipline, you immediately drop down, which would be extremely unfortunate if they would hit me towards the end here, because you can kind of also softlock. Like Lara would try to let go of the zipline, but could not because of like the geometry there, and then you just, yeah, are stuck on the zipline forever. Would have to checkpoint reload. But none of that happened, so that's good. And now we are in the bunker. Want to get past the door there, which we will do with a clip. Like that. This thing doesn't have collision, so we can just jump through that, which gives us the SMG. So this thing we actually are supposed to only get up after blowing up the entire area here, which would kind of knock this out of the hand of one of the bad guys here. But now it just lays there ready for us to take, which is pretty interesting. Get ambushed here. This is supposed to be the tutorial fight of the SMG, but we can also use the pistol, which I personally prefer for accuracy. I know some people also just single tap the SMG, which is just as legit. Want to get rid of this guy, because he will otherwise prevent us from clipping through this thing. But that's how we kind of skip the rest of this fight. I will checkpoint reload here because it gives me experience. It makes sense. And then I will try to skip having to go through the pipe section that is past this small area you saw there. I don't even see my visual lineup. This might take a while. Yeah. So this is a pretty finicky skip. But the idea is that there is a small gap between the shelf or whatever it is on the left and the barrel. And by turning the camera here, I can now freely move through this pipe section. Otherwise, it would be a very slow, like, walking simulator kind of section where you would, like, it's like 40 seconds of something of just holding forward. I picked up some skills that I will explain later. First I will get a skywalk here, which will allow me to cross the bridge, but on the top of the bridge. And that prevents, first of all, a few fights from triggering, and second of all, it allows me to jump all the way around here, which is out of bounds, as you might be able to tell. And I can make my way up here. All the way up here. I will get a checkpoint here, which is actually unfortunately, because I don't really want it. In case you don't make that jump, it would actually place you back inbounds, but since I made the jump, it's all good. And now we just approach this radio tower, which is kind of our goal, to call for help on this radio tower. And interestingly, there was this very smart choice to not make this long climb into a cutscene, but to actually just make it like another hold W for a minute segment. So the only thing I'm doing right now is literally just holding W, otherwise you couldn't proceed. But luckily I see there is some FIFA being played to the left of me there, and I can take a peek over there. I mean, what? Yeah, so at the campfire you may have briefly seen me pick up 2 skills. One of them was just pain tolerance, which is basically just giving you more HP or higher defense, whatever you want to say. You can take more hits, basically, which is nice to have, but not the main thing we got there. The main thing we got was Dirty Tricks, which is an ability that after a scramble, if I now melee, Lara will throw sand at her enemies, usually. And the idea obviously being you can blind enemies or distract them, which is definitely not what we will use it for. You will see some other applications for that, so that's gonna be, just keep that in the back of your mind. We got Dirty Tricks there. So this is the last segment of this climb. You see the gap there, and there's probably no way she could cross that, except that, yeah, she doesn't really care for her own safety, I guess, so obviously she's gonna jump for that. Very reasonable. And no way this could go wrong. But luckily, once we're on top, we can skip the cutscene that happens there. And then we just have to tune the radio. That's a bit too far. There we go. And then Lara will call for Mayday. And we will make our way down the radio tower again, which luckily only involves the zipline, so this we don't have to wait a minute for. And then once we're here, we now just have to break open the gate to meet up with the rescue plane. And the only real way to do that, as Lara smartly concludes, is by blowing up these canisters. And as luck would have it, there is a lighter or a fire striker right here. So we're gonna use that to yeah, blow up the gate. And there's some SMG ammo pickup here, which we don't really need, but since we have to wait for the explosion anyways, why not do that right now? Also, while aiming, if you aim there while entering the cutscene, you can see Lara's arm gets a bit messed up, and that drops us right into one of these sliding sections, which they were very proud of, which is why they used this like 3 or 4 times in the entire game. This is probably the easiest one, which would make sense since it's the first one. But all of those have in common that they have some pretty gruesome death scenes if you like ram into certain spots. I will try my best to not show those, because I don't really want to die. But yeah, usually when people talk about this game, this is one of the things they bring up, is especially like during the waterfall slide segment later on. There is a very infamous death scene that can happen. Yeah, that's the pallet we have to meet up with. A common theme in these reboot Tomb Raiders is that whatever Lara touches gets completely destroyed, so this is no difference. Not an exception at all. There is some... So basically there are 2 routes you can take here, either the high route or the low route, but sometimes you kind of get magnetized to one of the collision on the low route, so sometimes you get some really weird physics things happening here, but if you kind of know where to curve your jumps, you can prevent that from happening. And this brings us to another skywalking part. This is pretty tricky. It's another 2-parter, I meant to jump off that. Okay, and now I'm stuck on the ledge. Gonna wait out that grenade. Okay, I also notice I have motion blur. That's nice. So here I'm gonna drop the first skywalk. Get another one here. Hopefully, eventually. I mean, I have the skywalk. I just need some more height. And then here we turn around, and this should bring us right around this corner and in the vicinity of this rope, which we can then climb. So this skipped a few things, most notably a trigger that would trigger an ambush here. And as you can see, stuff is not loaded correctly. What we should have gotten during that ambush would have been rope arrows. And unluckily, rope arrows are actually required to make progress past this part. But luckily, as I mentioned earlier, there are some fail-safes, and crossing this bridge gives you rope arrows. So without those, we couldn't get past this door here, which is very lucky for us. So we skipped the rope arrows just to get them handed to us. And that basically brings us back around to the mountain village, which is where we first got after the Russian captivity part. So this is Roth again, and we will leave him again. I will try this skywalk a limited number of times. It's actually pretty difficult, yeah. Especially with this mouse sensitivity, I will not go for this, really. I will try one more time, but it's a very small time save. Yeah, I'm not gonna go for it. It's nice to show off, but it's not really required at all. So I'm gonna take the scenic route here. Especially if Lara would decide to actually grab the zipline. Oh, they spotted me. I haven't done the slow route in a while, so let's hope they don't hit me, which clearly they will not. Very good. Yeah, so the skywalk would have just gotten me basically up to this platform that I will go to now. I'm more worried about some of the later skywalks with this mouse sensitivity, but we'll see how it pans out. And we have two guys here. Gonna get rid of those. Gonna jump down here. Gonna jump onto this log. Cross that. Go up here. And this is where we want to do another skywalk. Don't want to get trapped on this. So that allows us to skip this waterfall. Now we want to go up this side. There we go. And that allows us to skip the valley to the right, going right past all of that, down on this side, to meet up with the pallet. And this is where the dirty tricks from earlier come into play. So at the bottom of the slope, I will now use dirty tricks, and you can kind of tell that something is wrong because Lara's in this sliding animation. And also there are bunnies here, which is very important. So if you dirty tricks at the start of a walkie-talkie segment, this sliding animation happens, which is significantly faster than the slow walking she does during the walkie-talkie segments. So that's a small time save, thanks to dirty tricks. But that's actually not the main reason why we got it. That will be revealed in a bit. But yeah, so that's the pilot from the rescue plane. He's not doing too well. Will not show you the rest of the cutscene. But basically, turns out people can't really leave this island. And people includes us for now, even though we got captured again, as you might expect. Except this time we're hanging the other way around, so that's novel, I guess. Okay, if you could actually swing the way I tell you to, that's lovely, thank you. Yeah, so now we have to get out of this place for obvious reasons. And that will include us getting the fourth and final weapon, which will be the shotgun. And that will be our weapon of choice for pretty much most combat encounters from here on out. As you might expect, shotgun very good for close range combat. And especially in the late game, pretty much all combat will be close range, so even though we will not upgrade any of our equipment, we don't even have the material to do so. The shotgun will be pretty much one-shotting every enemy until late game, and there it will be two-shots enemies. So it's a super useful thing to have, and not just for combat, because you actually need the shotgun to finish the game. The shotgun is the only tool that allows you to break certain barriers in this game, and some of them are actually placed in spots that you can't really go around. So without the shotgun, we would not be able to finish the run. Alright, so now off we go to the shotgun, which is right here. Also turns out it's a magical shotgun. You will see it briefly disappear before Lara shoots it again, or shoots with it again. And there it goes. Makes a lot of sense. And we actually will not go that way. We'll actually, no wait, do I pick this up? I don't even remember. Whatever. We will now try to go out of bounds on this end. So you saw me kind of doing this melee attack there. For some reason, in certain places it gives you more air time, which is obviously very useful because it was just enough for us to land on that pillar there. And there was an invisible wall on it, so which is why it looked a bit weird. Now I just have to hit the correct loading triggers for all this to load. There was also an enemy T-posing there in midair, don't worry about him. And this brings us directly to the monastery, which is the final part of this area. Just have to get back inside. Luckily there is a gap here where we can jump in. And sadly, the only way to leave this place is by completing the puzzle here, because there is a big bell in the middle of the room. And we basically have to make it crash down and through the floor to proceed from there on out. So that's the pendulum. We will use this pendulum to tear down the place, basically. So we'll make it ram into these pillars, which you can already see they're looking not very stable. And this is pretty much the only puzzle we complete in the entire run. But calling it a puzzle might be giving it too much credit. There will be a small fight here, where you will see the usefulness of the shotgun. Gonna wait until that guy is fully upright. Yeah, even then you can sometimes just shoot through him. And then we're just gonna get rid of these guys. And this gives me a checkpoint that I actually need to reload from, otherwise you couldn't proceed. Would get a soft lock, and now with that out of the way, we can complete the second half of the puzzle, which involves then not doing that. I don't know if it will work now. Yeah, there is a way to get this in a fast cycle, but probably will not work now. And we'll have to probably shoot the pendulum again. For some reason I got to jump there. Let's see. Nah, that still works, okay. Also audio warning, the audio balancing gets disabled here, so enjoy some good audio. Good luck explaining this to your parents. But you can tell that there is no audio output for people here because nobody's weirdly looking at me, which is what usually happens during marathons. But yeah, it corrects itself again now. And that brings us eventually to this part, which is what I mentioned earlier with the barriers. So these are the barriers that only the shotgun can destroy. If you would not have the shotgun here, you would just slam into them and die, which is not good.
Are you there?
I'm heading towards the palace. The others are being held there too.
I'll catch up to you.
And yeah, Lara's still on her mission to reunite with the rest of the crew. They got splintered off quite nicely across the island, but working towards it. I can't aim, but that's well known. I get a checkpoint here after killing these 3 guys, which actually places me a bit forward and also already destroys the barrier that would otherwise be at the door there, which kind of also saves shotgun ammo. It's not like super important, especially not in a marathon, because obviously there are some shotgun pickups along the way that I could just use, but it's always interesting to see that. And from here on out it's pretty much an escape-ish sequence. So you're supposed to, I guess, stealth through this, or it's an option to stealth through this, but we'll obviously disregard that option and just go the fastest way possible. And there are some guys in the way here. We kind of want to get rid of them, because otherwise they can shoot us while we're in the river here, and that can be pretty lethal. But since it's pretty much on our way, we have to go anyways, it's not too much of a time loss to kill them. And yeah, this is the infamous slide I mentioned earlier, where depending on where you end up, things can get quite gruesome. I hope to not show you that, but who knows. Again, this has multiple of these barriers I need the shotgun for. And yes, as you might expect, the crash plane there was one of the things that could have caused a pretty bad death. But yeah, this is the crash plane we actually want to land in. This will lead us to the parachuting segment. And this is another pretty tricky part if you don't really know what to expect or what to do. So some of these trees instantly kill you no matter what health you're at. Some of them you can safely bump into and they barely leave a scratch. But yeah, we basically just have one set path that we always do, and that should prevent us from crashing into any of these trees. And actually, like, well, we still crash into trees as you can see, but this is the scripted part. This always happens. And that leaves us up in Shantytown, which is, for runner purposes, probably the most difficult area. At least that's the most significant skip. So there is a skip in here that will skip 3 levels. And it involves some pretty precise tricks, so I'm not very confident right now with the mouse sensitivity as is, but we'll see how it goes. So that's the helicopter we're supposed to go to, which would give us fire arrows. We will still get fire arrows, but again we will use this fail-safe thing to get them using other methods. Here I clipped up by using the bow again, and used the step-up animation right afterwards to fuse the camera back to Lara. And now we make our way past all of this without having to go to the helicopter. Jumping right into here, you can see there, like, the area past the gate is not really loaded, so that might be an indicator that we skipped some stuff. And now we're dropped into a fight. I'm still in the restricted movement mode, so I have to reload checkpoint here. This will give me back my full movement, and we will use that to hopefully clip straight through the gate you saw there earlier. I did not clip into it enough. That looks better. There we go. And now we will hopefully go for Shantytown skip. So this kind of combines all the things so far. So we have an up clip right at the start, which will go into a skywalk, and then at the end there is like a very weird thing where you scale an invisible mountainside, I guess. But yeah, first we have to get there. Here you kind of have to rapidly turn around once you see Lara go to the top, right like that. Then there's like kind of a small pocket where we can get rid of this pulling mechanic I also mentioned earlier, where the game tries to pull you back in bounds. We're now out of bounds, and first of all have to make it across here. If Lara would stop going into this weird state, there we go. Here I use the shoving thing again to get some more airtime, to clear this small part, and now I'm in a skywalk, which I can hopefully use to get to the top of the waterfall here. But this is like only the first part of the skip. The really tricky one is this one, and because there are death planes involved, and if I fail I go back to the just past the gate that I clipped through. Okay, I'll abort this here. Yeah, you want to kind of get this airwalk but curve around the rock there. This could still work. It didn't work. Okay, I have to do it again. Yeah, so that's the kind of the tricky part. It's the last part there, because as you can see, if you slide down, you immediately hit a death plane and have to go for it again. That's unlucky, but yeah, that's kind of what you set yourself up for with this game. But yeah, this is the skip I mentioned earlier that skips 3 levels, so obviously you kind of have to go for it. Yeah, and this is also pretty tricky. Looked easy earlier because I got it on the first go, but usually you slide back down. Also hope I'm not causing too much nausea with this camera, but I'm trying my best. I swear. So let's try that again. This part we know. Turn around, skywalk. Up this side. We're back on top of the waterfall. And then we try this again. If Lara would jump, that is. I said if Lara would jump, that is. Nope. Yeah, this is very tricky. Okay, this looks promising. Yes, okay, but at least we made it to the top, so now I just need to clear this last little gap here. Okay, and this is kind of where you're supposed to get out of after these 3 levels that we skipped. But just by going in there and going back out, you get a checkpoint. And by loading that, yeah, we completed the skip. Because if we hadn't done that, this zipline, for example, would not be loaded. So obviously we could not proceed. But now, basically, the game catches up and considers us having completed these 3 levels. And this, again, is dirty tricks, but this is where it actually comes in useful. So it turns out, while you're in that state, you also airwalk. This is basically just for show, this first one. This doesn't really save any time. Because once we get up to the next platform, you can already kind of see there's a gondola there. We have to wait for the gondola to arrive anyways. But this already kind of demonstrates the effect of the dirty tricks thing, because we will use it right at the start of the next segment. So there will be kind of a fade out happening, and after that the game immediately drops us into a walkie-talkie. And we will use that to immediately get an airwalk and then leave the gondola, which we are obviously not supposed to, but we'll do it anyways. What I will also do here is activate VSync, so we'll cap my frame rate at 60 FPS, because fall damage for some reason in this game is tied to the FPS, and with 60 FPS it should be just enough for us to survive the pretty significant drop that we will take. So I enable VSync, which makes also the menu lag quite a bit, don't worry about that. So in this loading screen now, I will input rolls, and then once I see it's finished, I'll do dirty tricks, like that.
Are you there?
And now we're airwalking.
I should be there soon.
So
Tell you something.
the thing with airwalks is they last as long as the walkie-talkie lasts. So we will use that to hopefully make our way to this pylon, because that's just about when the walkie-talkie will run out. But we kind of have to curve around to make sure that we land on these like lower beams there.
Just trust me. It's the only way.
All right. Be careful.
Like that. And then we take another drop here. Yep, so that prevents us from dying from that fall, and that completes this skip. Okay, putting VSync off again, and reloading checkpoint. And this is another skip here where we kind of want to jump around the invisible level boundary wall thing. So this level is supposed to kind of turn with every combat phase that you clear. But by jumping around the level boundary there and going one level lower, you can already like grab the final part of the level that you're supposed to only be able to climb at, or yeah, grab at the very end, which immediately triggers the like escape sequence from there. So we skip pretty much all of that fight there, which is pretty good because, as you might expect, we're severely under-equipped at this point. And that should bring us to the shipwreck beach. go. Shipwreck Beach we will actually not go to right now, at least not to the actual beach. We will get the campfire here, and we will use that campfire for some fast traveling in a bit. But while we're up here, we will actually already grab the next campfire that is a bit out of the way. And we will do that with probably the most difficult skywalk, which is mainly because halfway through you will not see Lara anymore, and also the textures you see don't really match up with the collisions, so you kind of really have to grind out this skywalk to really know where to go. It's a pretty tricky one, so I would not be surprised if this doesn't work first try, but we'll see. Up here, turn around. Really not a big fan of the motion blur. I know why I usually have it turned off. Okay, then here we turn around. I'm very slow, I'm not a big fan of that. But somehow we made it. Ideally I end up on top of the level here, so I don't have to halfway clip through the bunker below me, because if I'm on top of it I can just jump off the ledge there to load the next part of the level. So now I can go back, and this part of the level should be loaded. There we go. And like we are supposed to go back here much later on in the game. We're still like not supposed to go here for quite a while because we still lack quite a bit of equipment. But we are like this already able to get the campfire, which as I said is used for fast traveling. Also these are fire arrows. Is he dead? No, he's not dead. Why am I stuck on the thing? Okay. So with these two guys out of the way, I can now use the camp to fast travel to the beach. So this campfire was automatically unlocked once we hit the waterfall falling down cutscene thingy. So that's quite a nice time save. Another small time save you can get here is by jumping across this. I can't even see the bottom. Okay. Jumping across this gap from the bottom here. Otherwise you're supposed to go around and like take the bridge on top. But that also involves going through a cutscene. Which even though you can skip it after a few seconds, it's still like slower obviously than just not getting it. And here we, I think, do the final skywalk in the run. Along the hull of this ship. That's an early turnaround. Okay. Oh, I have fire arrows. Turns out you can't shoot that down with fire arrows, but you can shoot it down with normal arrows. That makes sense. Also, game is grained wide because I accidentally activated Survivor Instincts, which is kind of just a helper ability that if you get stuck, it shows you where to go. But I have it bound to Q, which is right next to W, which is what I want to press. Yeah, so what we picked up there is actually an upgrade material for our bow. So we still have the very first like default bow, which is like super weak and not useful for anything. But with this upgrade material, we immediately get the, I think, composite bow, or is it a recurve bow? I'm never sure which one of the two is the actual one you get. It's basically the bow that gives you the ability to use your rope arrows to create zip lines with rocky walls. Can I skip this cutscene? Thank you. And that is required for the final level, because we need to cross 4 gaps where we actually need those zip lines. I mean, we could already go, like, yeah, this is the campfire we just got earlier, after the skywalk. There would have been nothing to prevent us proceeding afterwards down this road, but we would not have the bow, so that's why we had to take this quick detour to get it. It's basically gains in the long term. And by gains, I mean being able to finish the game. Alright, so that puzzle there we just skipped by basically jumping against the wall. Since the floor is kind of bouncy, you can clip just underneath it. It's pretty good. I'll also toss down a safety save here. Sometimes you trigger a fight here, which is not good, because that also gives you a checkpoint, and we don't want that. But I think we're good. So that bypasses the fight, and it also bypasses kind of, yeah, the textures updating, as you can see. And now we're off to the kind of late game and game era interesting frame drops. Yeah, just have to make our way back to the beach, so this is just like kind of a tunnel overviewing the entire scenery. While we're in here, our friends get ambushed. Our friends that we super briefly saw there at the beach. So they get ambushed and hurt, and then we just decide to travel inland and face the evil cult that is inhabiting this island that has captured one of our friends and wants to sacrifice her to appease or give her their god a new vessel. But for obvious reasons we want to prevent that from happening. You can also see, yeah, the bow obviously looks a bit different now compared to the wooden bow we had earlier. I'm still not a big fan of this mouse sensitivity. But it's okay. We pretty much, like, skip-wise, we pretty much completed almost everything. From here on out, it's just like, just quote-unquote fights and yeah, one and a half skips. We're also supposed to have a tool at this point that would allow us to zip up these zip lines at pretty high speeds, but that would have required us to go back to the shipwreck we originated from, and that's like a super huge detour and definitely not worth the few seconds you would save from being able to use that tool over the minutes we save by not going there and skipping it. And yeah, now that we're back here, small cutscene here, we will board the ship, and that will bring us to the enemy hideout slash fortress slash base, whatever it is. And that's where the final part of the game will take place. As you have been able to see so far, we were able to skip all cutscenes after a while. So in the bottom left you will see the indicator soon that I can skip this cutscene. Some take a bit longer. But interestingly, this is one of the very few cutscenes you just can't skip. Like, no matter how much I press buttons, I will always just get loading in the bottom left corner. So not sure what that is about, but at least it allows you to take in the sometimes a bit cringe acting in this game. But yeah, basically Lara just decides to go in solo and let her friends watch the shores, and she's strong enough now. So it's quite the interesting transformation from the innocent girl at the start of the game that had troubles holding a gun to a ruthless killer. And yeah, by the end of the trilogy, so in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, she's like a full-blown assassin. It's yeah, quite interesting. But yeah, she's determined to bring this to an end by herself. So am I. And yeah, right out the gate, you will see the upgraded bow in use, and it will allow me to create a zipline across this gap. To the right of me, there will be a pole. On the opposite side, you can see the rocky wall, so I can now just use my rope arrows to create a way across the gap. And that's like the first of 4 instances where that is used and required. There is a way to skip having to use this bow. Like, there are technically some skips available for all of these gaps, but a good half of them is not really doable by humans so far. Like, they're script slash tool assisted only. So that's the reason why, for all intents and purposes, this is still an unskippable part of the game, having to get the upgraded bow. But yeah, we're making our way into the enemy fortress. Here I will use the the fire arrows to set the debris on the other end of the hall on fire, and then alert this enemy, which hopefully will lock the door to the right there, and that prevents more enemies from coming in, so we basically lock them out. At the end of this small tunnel, there will be a stealth segment, and usually, as I said at the beginning of the game, rolls are considered a loud action. But for some reason, if you mash roll while getting out of the tunnel here for the first time, that doesn't apply. So that saves a bit of time there. If you were to reload the checkpoint and roll again, they would immediately spot you. It's very weird. Oh, I got the thing here. So sometimes you just can't proceed. Like, Lara will be caught in that infinite loop you maybe saw for a brief while before you have to go all the way back to the left, and that somehow gets rid of that thing. But yeah, we're just slowly shimmering along the ledge here. and then we'll unfortunately alert the enemies, and they will spot us and burn down their own hideout, because that's reasonable. Inhuman roars. This game has some pretty good descriptive text, some of which is still coming up. Yeah, so now this is just another small running away part. But yeah, you saw already, like, I killed one of these samurai guys just now. They're like fully clad in armor, and armor prevents you from one-shotting enemies. So the first shot of a shotgun will always break the armor, and the second one is the one that will then hopefully kill the enemies. Which is why, for all intents and purposes, enemies are now two-shot, except if you miss your first shot entirely, then they're three-shot. And since, like, they're fully, like, they have armor on all three parts of the body, that being head, torso, and legs, we go for the body because the torso, because it's like the biggest area of impact, obviously. There is no real use in going for headshots here because, as I said, you don't one-shot the enemies anyways with our equipment. Again, we haven't upgraded any of our equipment. We're still on base level for all of them, but it's sufficient, as you will hopefully see in this next part. So this is what we call the big fight. It's not the final fight of the game, but it is definitely the biggest. It consists of 3 phases, where you will fight these samurai guys repeatedly. The first phase is basically just waiting for the melee guys to cross over, and then you just kill those guys. Like, you can completely ignore the archers. Also stock up on some shotgun ammo here. So these guys are completely irrelevant. They will just stand there menacingly, and then they will run away eventually, and that's when the melee guys will jump over. We'll basically camp here to kill 2 of them. Should be another guy, but I guess he decided not to jump. Okay. There are also these oh, there he is. There are these explosive barrels that when you shoot them, they explode and one-shot enemies. There should still be some guy. Oh, there he is. Okay. Yeah. Accidentally hit the head there, so had to go for a headshot. Second phase here, I want to wait for that archer there to go down the slope for a certain distance, because then I should be able to just follow him and shoot him in the back. This is the trickiest guy to hit because he... Yeah, that can happen. Okay, need to reload. Okay, so with these 3 guys out of the way, I can now wait until these guys catch up for a bit. There's supposed to be an ambush here, but you can kind of use it against them. Blow up this tower. Blow up this thing here, and then there should be just 1 guy left, and once I kill him, I get a checkpoint. I can reload the checkpoint, which initiates phase 3. And this is kind of the phase where we will abuse, or not really abuse, but we'll camp the corner here and try to snipe guys out of the air. For some reason, if you hit these guys in mid-air with your shotgun, they are sometimes one-shot. Like here, you can see me gaining XP for each one of them. There are 2 more that should drop eventually. Good. Okay, good. Then I will kill the archers, hopefully. And then there are just 3 more guys dropping down here. That's 1. 2, 3. Perfect. Yeah, that was a pretty good big fight. Apart from the second archer in the second phase, that's like pretty much a given that he's like trolling you. But yeah, that was very good. That was actually already the last fight. We will not use our weapons for nefarious reasons like combat anymore. We'll only use them for righteous reasons, such as clipping through collision. So this gate we will open, but we will not really go through. We want to kind of wedge ourselves in between the gate and the wall here, which should allow us to clip through. There is an invisible collision here, but it doesn't extend super far. And then I want to curve jump around here, which allows me to go back in underneath the platform. And now I want to go back up, which basically involves me rolling repeatedly against this sloped surface there. And that kind of brings back the camera to Lara. and by touching the gate there, I loaded this area. Otherwise, it would like still be invisible. And we actually, that was kind of a required skip, which sounds stupid, but as I said, we are severely under-equipped, and to get past the previous room, normally we would need one of the things that we skip in this run. So to still proceed, we need to skip that room. There are some other ways to do that, but that's kind of the fastest way we came up with. And yeah, now we just make our way all the way to the top of this mountain. Yeah, slowly, but surely. So you will briefly see the final boss slash antagonist of the game here, from the back at least. Hope you enjoyed that. And here is more rope arrow usage to create zip lines. And yeah, so this game, you didn't see it so far, but the climbing mechanics in this game are not very positively remembered usually, let's say it like that. I'll try my best, but yeah, things can go awry pretty quickly. Cross that. Okay. Around this corner. Go up here. This gate has like 0 collision, so you just jump straight through it. There's like nothing involved there, you literally just have to jump against it. And another zipline here. Since I'm supposed to have the rope accelerator, the game physics kind of gave up here because I don't use it. It kind of like would make me overshoot this beam if I were to just keep holding W, which is why I had to slow down there. So like by going slower I would fly further. It makes no sense, but yeah, that's why we had to slow down there a bit.
Thanks, Ray.
Basically 2 more climbs and then we're done. But we're not quite done then. As you might expect, at the end there is usually a final boss awaiting us. Around here. This will be the last time we use the rope arrows. This is the big gap. This will again take quite a while to cross. And yeah, then it's just one more climb all the way to the top. And the final area is kind of like, the concept is that you have this gauntlet you have to go through. You can basically go counterclockwise around the area. It's kind of a big circle. You have to go counterclockwise to face various waves of enemies and bosses. But as it turns out, the gap separating you from the final bridge is just wide enough where we can skip all of that with a precise jump. But it is a pretty tricky jump, so wouldn't be surprised if it takes a few tries. But yeah, this is kind of the infamous climbing part that can be super bad. Because the wind can push you around quite a bit here. But this is looking solid so far at least. Okay, made it to the top. So I'm supposed to go to the right. I will not do that. And instead we'll just jump straight across here onto the final bridge. Have to go a bit back here to load the final part. And as you might expect for a glorious game like this, the final enemy is just a QTE. So once I get all my dual pistols and shoot him like 10 times, he will fall down, and that's when we have final time. But first I have to get my second pistol. And as we all know, dual pistols is Lara's signature weapon, which is why after this she will never use them again. So thanks for that, Crystal Dynamics. Yeah, so that's dual pistols, and I will get like free aim now, and time should come up very soon. And that's time. Wow, that's still underestimate, thank you. Surprised that's still underestimate, but yeah, that was quite the up and down, but that's Tomb Raider 2013. It's a super fun speedrun if you're willing to put in some time, because some of the glitches are definitely not the easiest to learn, but once you get the hang of it, it's like one of the most fun runs I can recommend. But yeah, I don't want to keep you too much longer. We're not very good on schedule, I think, so I don't want to waste too much time for the next runner. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. Please keep watching. We're having a good time here. Hope you're having a good time as well. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the marathon.